Hello and welcome to Impact the Borough, a podcast from the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce. I'm Brent Christensen, President and CEO of the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce. Each week, a Chamber staff member will sit down with a guest to discuss what we're doing to start and grow businesses, create quality jobs, develop our workforce, and tell the inspiring story of Greensboro to the world. This podcast is brought to you by Triad Federal Credit Union. As one of the largest credit unions in North Carolina, Triad is proud of its work supporting the businesses and the people that make our communities thrive. Chartered in 1952, today Triad serves more than 250,000 members, helping them and our community build strong financial foundations. There are 5 locations in Guilford County to serve you. Visit truliant.org for more information.
Thank you so much for joining us for Impact the Borough. I'm Niketa Greene, Director of the Leadership Greensboro Program. And today I'm happy to be joined by Carley Swaim and Hope Tyler from the Volunteer Center of the Triad. Thank you for joining us, ladies. I'll let you introduce yourselves. Carley, would you like to start?
Sure. My name is Carley Swain Walker. I'm the Executive Director of the Volunteer Center of the Triad. I have been in this role for right at 8 years, and I am a Greensboro native. I am also the wife to Brian and the mama to Breezy, and I enjoy all things Greensboro. Including our parks and trails and, doing things like that. Shopping is also a lot of fun. And I also practice what I preach because I enjoy volunteering for various organizations throughout the community.
Awesome. And I have to add that you are an alum of both Leadership Greensboro and the Other Voices program, both here at the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce, which is awesome.
Absolutely. Yes.
All right, Hope.
Hi, everybody. I'm Hope Tyler. I'm the Director of Volunteers and Community Engagement for the Volunteer Center of the Triad. I've been here since December of 2014, and I love it. I think I've got the best job in nonprofit because I get to work with all of these other nonprofits and get to have a little tiny part in helping them fulfill their missions. I have been here since I was 19 years old, which is about 150 years ago. And I've got 3 kids, 2 of whom are engaged. I'm engaged myself, and we love living in Greensboro, working in Greensboro. And like Carley, I practice what I preach too. I think that volunteering in Greensboro is really important, and it's easy to do because there are a lot of agencies that really need our help.
That's true. Definitely. This is the city. If you want to get involved, there is plenty of opportunity to do that, and people are open to it. So. Yeah. Well, thank you both again for joining us, and thank you for the introduction. Can you tell us, Carley, can you tell us a little bit about the overall mission of the Volunteer Center?
Absolutely. So the Volunteer Center strengthens our community by creating meaningful volunteer connections. We connect people, promote volunteerism, support nonprofits, and build partnerships. What does that really mean? That means that we're all things volunteerism for anybody and everybody. Whether you're an individual looking to give back, whether you're a group, a church, a corporation, whatever you belong to or a part of and you want to give back and serve, we are here to assist with that. So the Volunteer Center is definitely all things volunteerism for our entire community.
Perfect. And I know that within the Volunteer Center, there is an initiative called Reducing Hunger Through Service. Hope, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. And I'll start off by saying I've had the pleasure of working twice with Leadership Greensboro on projects for that wonderful program. And from that, some really great things have happened. So Reducing Hunger Through Service is basically a hub of nonprofits that are working to alleviate hunger in our community. And what we do is try to help them build their capacity especially through volunteer recruitment, because some of these agencies are 95% volunteer run, and so without volunteers, it's impossible for them to fulfill their missions and to serve the people experiencing food insecurity in our community. And so our role is to advocate for help recruit volunteers, help solicit in-kind donations, basically just put what they need out to the community and help them receive what they need so they can help others.
Awesome. So you do a lot of convening, galvanizing, getting people to getting resources to the right organizations. So I imagine in the past 4 months, you've been pretty busy in the work that you do. I know you've galvanized volunteers in the community through many tough times before. We've had natural disasters, hurricanes and things in the past, and I'm sure that you are involved in those as well. But none of us have really been in this space before. Nobody could necessarily could have told us that we'd end up in a global pandemic this year, and it would be so massively impactful. We were shut down, kids came home from school, millions and millions of people lost their jobs, and food security, which was already an issue in our area, soared to as high as 41%. So when you guys woke up on March 15th in this brand new world, how did you kind of ramp up and get engaged with the work that needed to be done in the food security space? And more specifically, getting involved with feeding the community and filling that gap?
So, well, luckily, in Guilford County, there are it's a great network of nonprofits that are already working together on a good day, you know. So you've got Backpack Beginnings and Second Harvest Food Bank and A Simple Gesture and lots of other wonderful organizations that are already playing in the same sandbox, so to speak. And they all communicate with each other and really support each other. And when all this started to happen, it was a very natural thing for everybody to come together, to just kind of triage the situation and see, you know, how exactly are we going to make this happen. I sit on the food task force for the city of Greensboro with some other just really amazing people. So Emily McCullum with the Weaver Foundation pulled everybody together. We started doing weekly phone calls just to talk about the need in our community and who was going to respond to what. We had the problem with the Guilford County schools kids. Hunger, like you said, is a huge issue in Guilford County, and we needed to make sure that kids were going to be able to still have food. How are we going to make that happen? And Guilford County Schools was absolutely, I could not be more impressed with them. They just sprung into action. So not only were they trying to teach all the children, I think they got that system up in about a week for the online learning. But we also were really concerned with food for the children, because some of the kids in our community don't eat a lot unless it's at school. And so Guilford County Schools started up with the grab and go meals, which was lunch for the current day, breakfast for the next day. They have served millions of meals throughout all of this. And then what a lot of people might not know about is the weekend food bag distribution. So nonprofits would drop bags of food off at select schools in Guilford County, and the food would get distributed to the children to go home with over the weekend. And so that was another thing to organize and coordinate. And it was a lot of work. It was my job for a long time. But once you set those systems up, everybody is so wonderful and compassionate and such team players that, if I couldn't fill up all of the slots that I needed, I could reach out to Cone Health or could reach out to A Simple Gesture or United Way of High Point. That we all really played together really nicely, and some great work has been done. There's a lot more work that needs to be done, and because people are struggling, we're finding that it's getting a little bit harder to recruit volunteers, a little bit harder to receive those really important food donations. And so if I could get one thing across today, is that people still really need help. And so if you can help by giving your time or food or even a monetary donation to these agencies, please do, because it's really important now more than ever.
Yeah, absolutely. And you make a good point that it is, when you think about that, yes, people are experiencing this tragedy, or experiencing the pandemic in a number of ways, and including there is a bit of tragedy, whether people have lost their jobs or lost loved ones or have faced illness themselves. So how have you gotten the word out? How have you gotten people gotten to the volunteers to say, hey, we need this help? How did you reach them?
Well, we've got a pretty strong online presence. We've got about 18,000 users in our volunteer management system. So we send lots of email messaging. We do lots of Facebook posts. We've done press releases. We just had our 26th annual human race, and there was a part in that talked about how COVID has impacted our community and what nonprofits are doing. So basically, any mountaintop we could stand on and yell to the masses is what we're doing. And I think Greensboro is a community that really shows up when we're needed, right? I mean, we saw it after the tornado happened in 2018, and we are seeing it now. People want to help, and sometimes they just don't know how, and so they can contact us or go to our website, and we can kind of connect them with something that makes sense for them to do, whether it's virtual or safely in person.
Okay, awesome. And so during the pandemic, I was impressed to learn that there have been over 20,000 acts of volunteerism, even with all that we have going on, and over 20,000 volunteer hours spent locally, which is a $500,000 economic impact. I'm kind of blown away by that. That's a lot of work too for a team as small as yours to be able to get that many volunteers. Can you talk about either of you? Can you talk about how has your work changed with the Volunteer Center and with reducing hunger through service since the pandemic hit our area?
Well, I can say that going back to one of your questions earlier, Niketa, when something happens, whether it's the tornado or whether it's, a hurricane or whatever it happens, a state of emergency happens in our community, we're tasked with becoming the volunteer emergency response center. And so we're supposed to stop all efforts that we are currently doing and start focusing on what that emergency is. That is part of our policies and procedures and, our strategic plan, is that's the way we do things. So when March 15th hit, we went into emergency response mode, and which made it that much more difficult because, again, no one's ever been through a global pandemic, not in our generation anyway. Right. And so we just, like everybody else, we didn't know what to do. We didn't know what we were doing. And there's only 4 of us total. So we literally just took everybody's role and scrubbed it and said, okay, now you're focusing on volunteers for the, COVID, and you're focusing on administration for COVID. And we just changed everybody's roles, and we just started doing it, and we were doing it from home. So that was even more difficult. Right. So it made for some really long, frustrating days. But in the end, when we heard the stories of how it was impacting our community and how, people were receiving food and meals and care, and, they were receiving their medicine in their homes, and all of the things that the 20,000 volunteers were doing, it made it all worth it.
Yeah, that's 100% right. And I'll add, one of the ways that we kind of got the word out to the nonprofits. And so let me back up a little bit. The Volunteer Center is a member-based organization. So typically we work with nonprofit members. They have a small membership fee that they pay, and that gets them different tiers of goodies. And so, but during times like this, of course, we don't care if you're a member or not. We're going to promote what you need, especially when we're talking about basic needs items, right? So I set up a page on our website. That was our COVID response page. And I sent out through the consortium, the Guilford Nonprofit Consortium, and posted on our social media. Basically, if you have something that you need, let me know, and I will put it out there for the community. And that page is actually still up on our website. things like, volunteers for the weekend food bag distribution, meals for people at the YWCA family shelter, drivers for Meals on Wheels for Senior Resources of Guilford. And that's constantly changing even now, as people's needs, as agencies' needs change. And so basically we just had to spring into action and know that our role in all of this is to support nonprofits so they can continue to serve, because the need was great before and now it's way up. At the end of February, I think it was 17% of people in our community were food insecure. Now at the end of March, 1 month later, it was over 41%. And so there's a lot of work that has to be done and is being done by these nonprofits. And so we just had to shine a really bright light on what everybody was doing and let people know how they could engage and engage safely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that certainly is the thing, is then you also, that's the other challenge that you all had, which I think is just so amazing, is how do you also now get people to be engaged and keep them safe in a scary pandemic. But I am impressed, I think, through your strategic leadership and your collaboration. Because of that and your ability to galvanize volunteers, Guilford County Schools was able to provide 1.5 million grab-and-go meals to students.
And they're still doing that, by the way, and that number has gone up exponentially. Wow. It's probably closer to 2 million at this point. So.
Wow. I mean, it's a huge impact. It really is. And even I saw that over 9,000 meals have been provided to seniors through Senior Resources of Guilford. Those are two really important populations in our community. What else can you guys talk about? What else has been the impact of your work with volunteers in the past few months?
Well, I'll say there are a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of great organizations out there that are working so hard, but just to spotlight a couple, I mean, One Step Further has their community support nutrition program, and they're a very small staffed person. I think a lot of nonprofits are very small staffed, but what they do is amazing, and they're getting trucks from Second Harvest Food Bank of around 30,000 pounds of food every 2 weeks. And so they completely count on volunteers to come in and help unload those trucks, unpack those trucks, repack the food into boxes. And one great thing about that pantry is that they have it set up so people who need the food can do it by choice. They can go online and pick the groceries that they want. So they're not just getting handed a box of food. They get to actually put in their dietary concerns. If they're diabetic or have high cholesterol, they can put that in, and only the foods that are appropriate for their diet will show up for them to choose from. And it's just really well done. And Backpack Beginnings, they're 95% volunteer run, which is incredible to me. They're doing around 50 weekend food bag distribution sites. So they go to over 50 schools every week. Volunteers go to Backpack Beginnings warehouse, pick up the food, take it to the school site, and pass it out to folks that are coming to pick up the food. And then talking about, not nonprofits, we've got some great like corporate partners as well. Like, for instance, Novant Health just donated 4,800 face masks to us because they knew that we would be able to have, lots of places to give this to. So we were able to give out 4,800 masks to 23 different organizations just last week. So the way people come together and work together is just really wonderful to be a part of.
Yeah, and we had some fun ways that people stepped up because of health concerns and having young children in the home. Some people couldn't get out and actually physically volunteer, so they volunteered in their homes. We had some people do some greeting cards for seniors in shut-in situations. We had some people do some fun kits for kiddos, with coloring books in them and crayons, and they just ordered a bunch of things off Amazon and created kits. And we had some of our Swaim basketball players actually made some cards and some keep up the good work virtual learning messages for our students. So there was a lot of creative ways that people stepped up, even not going out and getting their hands dirty volunteering, but just staying in their homes and doing it that way too. And we were able to mobilize those volunteers as well.
Well, and that's good I'm glad you said that. It's good for people to hear that, that even if they are at home, that there are still things that they can do. And I didn't hear about the Swarm players and what they had done. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
I guess we're definitely realize now that we're far from out of the woods, and in some ways, in some places we're maybe even going backwards as it relates to this crisis, and certainly in-person education is still uncertain. So I'd love for you guys to share kind of where do you think things are headed now, and what do you need from the community as we move forward in this crisis?
Well, I think that this is our new norm for the Volunteer Center. I spoke about being an emergency response center when, March 15th hit and we knew that COVID was a real issue. But I think that the emergency response center is the new norm center. And we're going to continue to work with our nonprofits and make sure that we're giving them what they need and make sure that we're broadcasting their needs to the community as a whole. We're going to continue to recruit large numbers of volunteers, whether those are stay-at-home volunteers or out in the field volunteers. And we're going to continue to locate resources for our community as, things just, the key word this year is pivot, as we pivot, to figure out, how we can get through this together. We're a really strong community, and I love to call Greensboro home, and we can do this and we can come together. And I've been really impressed with what we've done thus far, but there's a lot more work to be done. So be on the lookout and listening for the Volunteer Center reaching out and letting you know that we need you in various ways. And Hope can tell you what those various ways are.
Perfect.
Well, obviously we always want to support our nonprofits. I mean, that's why we exist. We are a nonprofit, but we exist to help other nonprofits to fulfill their missions and serve the people that they need to serve. What a lot of people don't realize is that, the Volunteer Center is a nonprofit. Therefore, we need donations. We have to keep the lights on so we can continue to do the work that we do. What we're seeing is a lot of agencies are canceling their events. We had to take our human race virtual. Everybody's doing virtual events now, but there are a lot of some great nonprofits that are really being hit hard with this and don't know how they're going to stay. And luckily, there have been some great grants and some really generous corporations and companies that have been giving. So I would just encourage, please keep giving. Remember the Volunteer Center and remember, the 100+ agencies that we serve and work with. You can use our website to find what your passion is. I mean, some people want to do something to help children. Some want to help literacy. Some want to help seniors, folks with disabilities. We can help. It's kind of a one-stop shop on our website where you can kind of learn about the different agencies that are in our community, and then pick one that aligns with what your passions are.
And can you give us your webpage address?
Yes, we are volunteercentertriad.org.
Perfect. And you are also on social media, right?
Yes.
I know you're on Facebook.
Yes. Facebook, right. Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest. Am I missing any? Twitter.
All the things.
All the things.
Perfect. Well, I thought it'd be great to end on something that I think is definitely in you all's wheelhouse. I'd love to hear from both of you briefly. What can you say about the power of volunteerism?
Again, I'll just say how incredibly giving this community is, and how philanthropic spirited this community is, and volunteering is so important because it's giving of your time, and that's something that you can never get back. And therefore you are giving your whole heart when you volunteer, and you are embedding and ingraining yourself in the fabric of this community when you give back and volunteer. And also, there's not a lot of fun news right now. It's a lot about sickness and job loss and businesses closing. And people want to hear about heartwarming things. And they also want to be part of something heartwarming. And that is volunteering. And we want you to reach out to the Volunteer Center, and we want to share with you how you can make an impact and be part of that heartwarming story.
Awesome. Hope, would you like to add?
I'll second all of that, and say too, there are a lot of folks that are furloughed right now and not able to go into work. They might be medically fragile. They might be part of the vulnerable population, and so I think there's a lot of boredom and a lot of frustration. And I think that going out and serving others is empowering. That also can create new networks for you. It's great for your mental health. It's great for your physical health. And so I would really say that volunteerism will help the nonprofits, but it also helps the volunteer. It helps to know that you're making an impact, and that really does positively impact lots of things for individuals.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate both of y'all. I'm impressed by you individually and collectively as an organization. I think it's amazing what you've been able to do for the community, and how you've been able to use what you have to give back in the community in the way that you do. So thank you so much for your time, because I understand that it is limited right now, especially. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Niketa.
Thanks, Niketa, and thanks to the Chamber. We really appreciate all of your efforts as well. You're doing some great work to help our community rebuild, and we're grateful for that.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
This podcast is brought to you by Truliant Federal Credit Union. As one of the largest credit unions in North Carolina, Truliant is proud of its work supporting the businesses and the people that make our communities thrive. Chartered in 1952, today Truliant serves more than 250,000 members, helping them and our community build strong financial foundations. There are 5 locations in Guilford County to serve you. Visit truliant.org for more information. You can find all of our episodes on YouTube thanks to our video sponsor, North State. Impact the Borough is recorded at Press Play Studios. Producers are Brody Cohen-Glaze and Holly West. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at GSO Chamber. See you next time.